Answer on this one is 4. The answer is 1. Answer is 9. Answer is 1. $18. Take away from 24 is 6. Divided by 3 is 2. Squared is 4. Pick a number from 1 to 10. The winning number today is...
Yes, really?
Homework answers, bringing up the following for the first 4. Answers are 39, 12, 88, and 8. Right. Our objective today is to use a matrix to solve air traffic routing problems. Today's learning target is to solve problems involving, the word involving is on there twice, I don't know why, so we'll just scratch that out. Multiple layovers, and a layover is this. You have airport A, airport B, and instead of going straight from one to another, you make a stop in between, for example, at airport C. This counts as one layover, but notice how many steps it is. 1 flight, 2 flights. So when you say a 2-step problem, it's really 1 layover. You're making 1 stop, but there are 2 flights that are involved. Example number 1. You have a map of the United States, and you have 4 airports on here. In the upper left, I keep forgetting I have a pointer I can use. In the upper left, we have Portland, Oregon. Is that Oregon or is that Washington? That's Washington. Is Portland in Washington?
No.
It's in Oregon. Oh well, we'll just call it PRT and we won't name it Portland. I put it in the wrong state. My fault. This one is Columbus in Ohio. This one is Houston, Texas, and this one is Miami, Florida. Now notice all the different routes you have here. If it starts here and it goes there with an arrow, that means it's going from Houston to PRT. Now if you have an arrow on both ends of it, then that means there's a flight that goes both directions. There's one that goes away and one that goes to. So simple questions you can answer now are, how many flights leave Houston, Texas? 2 of them. How many flights arrive at Columbus? How many flights leave Miami? Simple questions. Now, what you're going to do is to figure out the following. Here, we want to say, for example, Miami, Houston, PRT, and Columbus. We want to name each of the left side and the top side of the matrix according to those names. Here on the matrix, for example, there are no flights that leave PRT, go out and circle around and then come back. That's why there's a 0 in the matrix where you match up PRT and PRT. But in the matrix, there is a flight that leaves Columbus and goes to PRT. So that's why on the left you find Columbus, across the top PRT, and then put a 1 there because there is exactly 1 flight that goes from Columbus to PRT. And then you would go through and do the same thing for the rest of these. For example, to go from Miami to Portland with 1 layover, they're talking about this. And I'm just picking these routes out of thin air. You could go from Miami, maybe, to Columbus and then to Portland. Is that even possible on this map? Is there a flight that leaves Miami and goes to Columbus? Is there one that leaves Columbus and goes to Portland? So that's one of them. And then can you go from Miami to Houston and then from Houston to Portland? Yes. So instead of counting these all out on a map, and you'll get a map that has 8 cities on it at some point with all kinds of arrows. And instead of going through and trying to count all of them, you just use a matrix. This chart comes from the map that we just had. So take a look at the matrix. It doesn't matter in what order you put them as long as you're consistent with PRT, Columbus, Houston, and Miami down the left. If that's the order you go down the left, that's the order you have to use across the right in order to be consistent. And what these zeros and ones stand for are the number of flights that leave PRT and go back to PRT. Were there any flights on the map that left PRT, circled around, and then came straight back to PRT? No, that wouldn't make any sense. But if you notice Columbus here, Columbus to PRT, there was one flight that left Columbus and went to PRT, so that's why there's a 1 there. Had there been 3 or 4, you'd put that number there. There were no flights that left Columbus and circled back and went to Columbus. So that's why there's a 0. So anytime you see a match there between cities, chances are it's going to be a 0. That's why there's a diagonal row of zeros there. Alright. So now, once you have this matrix, you can't use it until you have a question. So this is what it looks like in just the matrix form that you're going to put in your calculator. And the question is, how many ways can you go from Miami to Portland with exactly one layover? So in how many ways can you go from Miami to Portland with exactly one layover? One layover equals matrix squared. If you have 2 layovers, it's matrix cubed. 3 layovers is matrix to the 4th power. So the pattern here is the number of layovers, add 1 to it, and that's the power you're going to raise the matrix to. So you square the matrix in this case, and when you do, you should come back with a matrix that looks like this. Now to find out the number of ways you can go from Miami to Portland with exactly one layover is to find the cell in the answer matrix that pertains to Miami and Portland. So if you're going from Miami, you're looking down the left first, and then to Portland, you're looking across the top. Match them up, and there should be just 2 ways that you could do that. Example problem number 2. All you have to do here is enter in this matrix and then square it. Or not square it, but cube it, yes. 571 for the first cell, and then going down that first column you should have 586, 692. And then in the second column, 1581, 1642, 1922. And then 874, 942, 1075. Practice problem number 1. Cube this matrix, bring the whole thing up here and drop it off. The answer for this one should be 344, 888, 592, 1528. Speed problems on map reading coming up. And in this problem, how many flights leave Detroit? There are 2 flights that leave Detroit. How many flights leave San Diego? There are 3 flights that leave San Diego. True or false, which means write a large T or a large F, clearly visible on your paper. The question is it possible to go from San Diego to Portland, Maine, I got the right state this time, in one layover. There we go. San Diego, to go from San Diego to Portland, Maine with one layover, you can do it from San Diego to Charlotte, and then notice you have the double arrows here. That means there is a flight from Charlotte to Portland, Maine. How many flights leave Charlotte? I'll change colors here to red. Charlotte has 2 flights that leave. They leave Charlotte. Where's the other ones coming out at? The double arrow only means that, oh yeah, you're right, it is a double arrow. So the answer should have been 4, my fault. I fouled that one up. Yeah, it is 4, so if you had 4, come back and I'll give you $1 million. True or false, can you go from Detroit to Charlotte with one layover? Answer is true. Your homework assignment tonight will contain a map.